Welcome to my channel. Tonight I have a twisty true story of media propaganda, racial tensions, and cancel culture. With government schooling, social media algorithms, AI, and the influence of the state over information, the truth is becoming more and more difficult to determine. Trust in the mainstream media is waning for good reason, but still, many people trust CNN or Fox depending on their political persuasion. Some think that because they consume both CNN and Fox, or other left and right-leaning news sources, that they're insulated from propaganda and bias. Some people think that the truth is always somewhere in the middle. But as Oscar Wilde said, the truth is rarely pure and never simple. The following incident is an excellent example of this. On May 25, 2020, George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis, Minnesota. On that same day, in New York City, two unrelated Coopers, Amy and Christian, went to a section of Central Park known as the Ramble, which is a secluded woodland area especially popular with birdwatchers. Amy allowed her dog to roam free in the Ramble. This was illegal and a pet peeve of birdwatcher Christian, as dogs often scare the birds. An argument ensued when Christian asked Amy to leash her dog, and she refused. During the argument, Christian Cooper began recording with his phone. This video went viral. The Twitter video alone was viewed over 40 million times. Here it is.
Would you please stop? Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And
me.
I'm taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I'm in the Ramble, and there is a man, African-American, he has a bicycle helmet. He is recording me and threatening me and my dog. There is an African-American man, I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog. And my... I'm sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the Ramble. Please send the cops immediately. I'm in Central Park in the Ramble. I don't know.
Thank you.
The backlash against Amy Cooper was immediate, righteous, and life-changing. Amy was widely criticized and accused of manufacturing the threat posed by Christian. She was accused of weaponizing her white tears, with the intention of Christian suffering a similar fate as George Floyd had suffered that very same day. Comparisons were made to Emmett Till. That night, Amy apologized via a phone call in an interview with NBC4 New York. She said, "I sincerely and humbly apologize to everyone, especially to that man, his family. It was unacceptable, and I humbly and fully apologize to everyone who's seen that video, everyone that's been offended, everyone who thinks of me in a lower light, and I understand why they do. When I think about the police, I'm such a blessed person. I've come to realize, especially today, that I think of the police as a protection agency, and unfortunately, this has caused me to realize that there are so many people in this country that don't have that luxury." Amy's PR firm recommended and likely worded her apology. Despite her apology, the mainstream media amplified the story to a fever pitch. Trevor Noah said that Amy blatantly knew how to use the power of her whiteness to threaten the life of another man in his blackness. Gayle King of CBS Good Morning said, while discussing the racially charged events of May 25, 2020, "I am speechless. I am really speechless about what we're seeing on television this morning. It feels to me like open season, and that sometimes it's not a safe place to be in this country for black men." In a separate interview, Christian and his sister Melody spoke with Gayle King about the incident. Melody said, "I had seen videos like this before. I'm through with it. I'm through with the weaponization of white women's tears, and there's a history of it from Emmett Till, which we all know." New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio tweeted, "This video out of Central Park is racism, plain and simple. She called the police because he was a black man. Even though she was the one breaking the rules, she decided he was the criminal, and we know why. In the video, Amy was seen dragging her dog by its collar, which resulted in her surrendering her pet to the shelter where she had adopted the Cocker Spaniel in 2018. Amy's dog was returned to her on June 3rd after an evaluation by the shelter veterinarian. Amy's employer, Franklin Templeton Investments, placed her on administrative leave on that same day, May 25th, pending an investigation. Then, on May 26th, the company fired her from her job as head of the firm's insurance investments. Franklin Templeton issued the statement that read in part, "We have made the decision to terminate the employee involved, effective immediately. We do not tolerate racism of any kind at Franklin Templeton." Also on May 26th, the New York Post reported that Amy Cooper had a romantic relationship with Wall Street trader Martin Priest from 2008 to 2012 and had sued him after he allegedly conned her out of $65,000. According to the suit, in October of 2013, Martin Priest reached out to Amy for money. Even though they were broken up at the time, Amy still had feelings for Martin. Martin Priest told Amy that his marriage was irretrievably broken down and that he was a victim of abuse from his wife. In addition, the suit alleged that Priest had also impregnated another girlfriend, and like his wife, this girlfriend had also abused him, and Priest desperately needed $100,000 to protect himself and his children against his wife, and to pay his girlfriend to abort their unborn child. To convince Amy to hand over the cash, the suit alleged that Martin Priest wanted to get back together after all his marital and extramarital problems were resolved. According to her lawsuit, Amy Cooper gave Martin Priest a total of $65,000 between February 12th and July 30th, 2014. In September of 2014, after Priest's divorce was finalized, Amy Cooper allegedly received a text message from Priest's girlfriend who said they were living together and planning to marry. She also said that Priest's claims of abuse and intent to be with Amy Cooper were false. According to the girlfriend's Facebook page, Priest and the girlfriend were married in October of 2014, and they were living with their infant son in New Jersey. Martin Priest called Amy Cooper's allegations against him completely salacious and absolutely false. Records show that Amy Cooper's lawsuit was dismissed when neither side showed up for court conferences in January and March of 2018. Martin Priest told the New York Post that Amy Cooper's lawsuit against him was a complete fabrication and insisted that they were never involved. "I never had a romantic relationship with Cooper, and the allegations she brought against me were vindictive and divorced from reality," Priest said. Martin Priest called the police in Long Island City on June 8, 2014, accusing Amy of attempting to break into his home. Priest said, "I caught her in the act. She lied to my doorman, pretending to be my sister, and said she needed to get inside. I was at home at the time, ignoring her calls, and she knocked on the door, then opened it and tried to walk inside. I got up, slammed the door, and called the police. She texted a lot of crazy stuff afterwards." The NYPD confirmed that Priest had filed for harassment against Amy on June 8, 2014. A spokesperson said she came to his home, repeatedly rang the doorbell, and asked to enter the location. A number of text messages were seen by the police as well, corroborating Martin Priest's story. No charges were filed. Martin Priest claimed that he later received a call from Amy who was angry about the police. She had said she wasn't going to stop until she'd put him in the gutter. Priest explained that he had been friends with Amy Cooper for a few years before the lawsuit, but he had distanced himself from her in 2012 when Amy confessed romantic feelings that Martin did not reciprocate. The negative press continued for Amy Cooper. On June 15, 2020, the New York Post printed an article titled, "Central Park Karen Amy Cooper reportedly tried to have her doorman fired." One of Amy's neighbors, Allison Faircloth, described finding Amy Cooper on the verge of tears after an argument with the building's doorman last winter. The neighbor said that the doorman had cursed at her for no reason, and Amy vowed to have him fired. When Faircloth asked the doorman what had happened with Amy, the doorman had said that Amy was complaining about a faulty elevator and cursing at him, and Amy forced her way into a security booth. According to the doorman, Amy had to be removed by a security guard. "There's always a narrative from her about someone who has done her wrong," Allison Faircloth said. Two other neighbors offered negative commentary on Amy's behavior. There was a sense of entitlement, Marisol de Leon told The Times, adding that Amy would often walk her dog without a leash and would become angry when told not to. Maria Mead, who lives nearby, said Amy was very devoted to her animals, but spoke in a strange baby voice, even when speaking to other adults. The only thing I'll tell you is she never spoke directly to a person. She always spoke through her dog, and in a baby voice, Mead said. It was really bizarre. After mounting public pressure, in July, Amy Cooper was charged by the Manhattan DA with filing a false police report, a misdemeanor with a penalty of up to 1 year in jail. In October of 2020, articles were written by the BBC, New York Times, Fox, and others about a second 911 call made by Amy about Christian Cooper. In the articles, Assistant DA Joan Aluzzi is quoted as saying, "The defendant twice reported that an African-American man was putting her in danger, first by stating that he was threatening her and her dog, then in a second call indicating that he tried to assault her in the Ramble area of the park." Manhattan DA Cy Vance Jr. said, "Our office is committed to safety, justice, and anti-racism, and we will hold people who make false and racist 911 calls accountable. As alleged in the complaint, Amy Cooper engaged in racist criminal conduct when she falsely accused a black man of trying to assault her in a previously unreported second call with a 911 dispatcher. Fortunately, no one was injured or killed in the police response to Miss Cooper's hoax. Our office will pursue a resolution of this case which holds Miss Cooper accountable while healing our community, restoring justice, and deterring others from perpetrating this racist practice." The New York Times later issued a correction saying Amy Cooper didn't make a second call, that it was when 911 called her back. Most of America who followed this case saw the video, and that was all the information they had. Others also read the news articles, which provided some additional context, which was mostly positive for Christian and or mostly negative for Amy. But they left out some important details, or they de-emphasized them enough that most readers wouldn't notice. These three details were relevant and available to the media, yet they were ignored or obfuscated. The first was a Facebook post, Christian's Facebook post. The problem with conflicts recorded on video is we don't know what happened prior or after the recording. We often are purposely misled by the person taking the video. In this case, Christian Cooper wrote about what happened prior to recording in a Facebook post that he posted on the very same day as the argument with Amy. Central Park this morning. This woman's dog is tearing through the plantings in the Ramble. Me. Ma'am, dogs in the Ramble have to be on the leash at all times. The sign is right there. Her. The dog runs are closed. He needs exercise. Me. All you have to do is take him on the other side of the drive, outside the Ramble, and you can let him run off the leash all you want. Her. It's too dangerous. Me. Look, if you're going to do what you want, I'm going to do what I want, but you're not going to like it. Her. What's that? Me to the dog. Come here, puppy. Her. He won't come to you. Me. We'll see about that. I pull out the dog treats I carry for just such intransigence. I didn't even get a chance to toss any treats to the pooch before Karen scrambled to grab the dog. Her. Don't you touch my dog. That's when I started recording with my iPhone, and when her inner Karen fully emerged and took a dark turn. The second key detail is a statement sent to NBC News. On May 26th at 7:09 Eastern Standard Time, Jerome Lockett, a dog walker who also frequented Central Park, sent the following statement to NBC News. Here are some of the highlights of his statement. I'm a 30-year-old African-American dog owner living in New York City. I frequently take my dog to Central Park and walk my dog with my friend and his dog. He's a white man. Central Park allows dogs off-leash before 9 a.m. and after 9 p.m. There are a few parts of the park that don't allow dogs off-leash, no matter the time, the Ramble being one of them. My friend tells me about a month ago as we're approaching the Ramble with our dogs off-leash. A few days ago, there was a dude in there screaming at people to leash their dog. I'm glad that other owner was with me because he's a really buff dude waving his helmet. I make nothing of it because sometimes people tell us to leash our dogs, but we're just passing through quickly and we don't allow our dogs to go chasing birds or anything, so what's the harm? Well, a few days later, we're in there and Christian had no idea his name or that this was the same guy my friend mentioned to me days ago, comes yelling from about 10 yards away, "You need to leash your dog. They can't be off leash in here." We both take a few steps back, and my friend asks him if he works for the park, and he says no. So we say, "Sounds good, have a good one." And when we turn our back, he starts to try and make these noises to call our dogs to him. I yelled, "Don't try and call my dog to you." He then says, "If you're going to do what you want, then I'm going to do what I want, but you're not going to like it." Me, "What? Are you threatening me and my dog?" Christian bends down while gripping his black Vespa helmet attached to his side and starts calling my dog by clapping and says, "Come here, puppy, come here." I then ran over to him and pushed him away before he got too close to my dog. He then yelled for someone to record it, but the two white men he was with seemed uninterested. I said, "Never effing touch someone's dog that isn't threatening you, and never threaten me again." Then I walked away with my dog, my friend, and his dogs. As a black man, I'm not scared of another person because of their race or ethnicity, but this man is threatening with his body language and screaming. I don't know Amy Cooper at all. I've said hello to her because that's what dog owners do to other dog owners in the park. But when I saw that video, I thought, I cannot imagine if he approached her the same way, how she may have been genuinely afraid for her life. She may not be like me, willing to physically defend herself or her dog. I understand the optics of this video aren't great, but people need to understand this man is a dick and probably did threaten her. You can read his Facebook post where he tells the world he told her, "You're not going to like what I'm going to do next." That's a threat. And she has no idea if this man is pulling out a knife, a gun, or a treat that's laced with rat poison. If I wasn't who I was, I would have called the police on that guy too. Sure, we're breaking the rules by having our dogs off leash in a park that has 80% of its area off leash hours, but that gives that guy no authority to accost people in such manner. My two fellow dog owners have had similar situations with this man, but don't feel comfortable coming forward because they're white. They think they'll be seen as some Karen or whatever. I obviously don't have that fear. There's a recording of Christian Cooper that gives some credibility to Jerome Lockett's statement. A few days before his argument with Amy, Christian had been recorded at a local community board meeting stating,
And I want to preface this by saying this is not anti-dog. I grew up with an English Cocker Spaniel and I love dogs. Don't put that out there because my rep as a dog hater serves me well in the park. It's getting super ugly between birders and unleashed dog walkers. I've been assaulted twice so far this spring. People actually putting their hands on me, which really surprises me because I'm not a small guy. So it would be ideal if we could get some enforcement, particularly on Strawberry Fields, which I've been told by some dog walkers is actually a dog run. I'm like, no, not really. Also in the Ramble, there are two particular spots where there are open fields and people see them and they think this is a place for me to play catch with my dog. And I'm like, no, this is the Ramble. Dogs have to be on.
The third detail is the 911 call, which had a bad connection, which is why Amy repeated herself 4 times to the operator, appearing more and more distressed with each try, and describing Christian as an African-American man twice while on the phone.
New York City 911, you need police, fire, and medical. I'm sorry, your phone is breaking up really bad. I can't hear anything you're saying. Ma'am, I cannot hear anything. The phone is breaking up really bad.
I could not obtain a transcript of the call when 911 called back. It is alleged that during the call, Amy said that Christian tried to assault her. 2 DAs verified this call, although I would like to have the actual transcript to see exactly what she said, especially given the emotion of the time. I think if she said something worse than what we heard on video, I think that information would be readily available. Immediately after the video of Christian and Amy's argument in the Ramble went viral, a slew of media outlets covered the incident. Initially, none of them mentioned the bad connection of the 911 call or Jerome Lockett's statement, and none of them featured Christian's admission of a possible threat prominently. The Washington Post published an article on May 27, 2020, titled, "White Woman Terminated from Job After Calling Police on Black Birdwatcher Who Asked Her to Leash Her Dog," company says. The article begins with this. Christian Cooper was birdwatching deep in the woods of Manhattan's Central Park when he noticed a rogue Cocker Spaniel digging up the shrubbery around him. Many of the birds he spots stop by for the dense plants, so he approached the dog's owner early on Monday with a request. Could she leash up the canine as the park rules required? Amy Cooper said she would be calling the police instead. I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life, the white woman told him, pulling out her cell phone and dialing 911. Less than 24 hours later, after a video of their exchange went online, she has lost her dog, her anonymity, and her job. The latest incident in a long, too familiar pattern of white people calling the police on black people for any number of everyday activities: barbecuing, playing golf, swimming at a pool. Time to add a new outdoor pastime to that list: bird watching. The Washington Post did feature Christian's Facebook video and post, but the important parts do not appear on the page. A reader would have to go to the Facebook post, which I imagine most readers did not, as you can easily play the embedded video on the Washington Post article. They did not mention Christian's account of his own words when he said to Amy, "Look, if you're going to do what you want, I'm going to do what I want, but you're not going to like it." The Washington Post did mention Christian's use of the dog treats. They wrote, "When Christian Cooper asked Amy Cooper to follow the rules, she refused. He keeps dog treats on hand for non-compliant pet owners," he said, and tried to toss one to the dog. Time published an article on May 26, 2020 at 1:17 p.m. titled, "White Woman Who Called Police on a Black Man at Central Park Apologizes, Says, I'm Not a Racist." The article begins with this: "In a video that has gone viral, a white woman holding her dog by the collar in New York City's Central Park can be heard saying, 'I'm calling the cops. I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.'" The Time article links to Christian's Facebook post, but it does not mention Christian's potential threat. It does mention the dog treats with the following: Christian Cooper's video only shows part of the altercation, but according to his Facebook post, he asked Amy Cooper to keep her dog on its leash. When she refused, Christian offered the dog a treat. "I pull out the dog treats I carry for just such intransigence," he wrote on Facebook describing the encounter. "The only way they can keep the dog from eating the treat is to put it on a leash." Christian Cooper also told NBC4 New York, "At some point, she decided, I'm going to play the race card, I guess." Vox reported Christian's possible threat, but it was embedded in biased rhetoric against Amy. For example, the title and subtitle is certainly negative toward Amy. Here's the part where Vox referenced the possible threat. Christian Cooper told CNN he was pretty calm when he asked Amy Cooper to abide by the park's leash rules, but Amy claims he was screaming at her. "He was running in an open field," she told CNN. "He came out of the bush." When she refused to leash her dog, he says he told her, "If you're going to do what you want, I'm going to do what I want, but you're not going to like it." He meant he was going to film her, but Amy says, "I didn't know what that meant. When you're alone in a wooded area, that's absolutely terrifying, right?" She now claims that fear is the reason she decided to call the police. "I think I was just scared," she told CNN. "When you're alone in the ramble, you don't know what's happening. It's not excusable. It's not defensible." Amy also says she wants to publicly apologize to everyone. "I'm not a racist," she told CNN. "I did not mean to harm that man in any way." Notice how Vox framed this. Christian Cooper told CNN he was pretty calm when he asked Amy Cooper to abide by the park's leash rules, but Amy claims he was screaming at her. Christian told CNN, but Amy claims. Technically, they are both making claims, but Amy is the only one tagged that way. Claim as a verb means to assert that something is the case, typically without providing evidence or proof. Then they did it again with the statement, "She now claims that fear is the reason she decided to call the police." Now claims implies that she had claimed a different reason for calling the police earlier, which also implies that she was or is lying about one of those reasons. The Cut printed an article on May 28, 2020, with no mention of Christian's possible threat or the dog treats. It did include the following. The clip sparked outrage online, with some drawing parallels between the woman's false accusation that she was being threatened and the recent killing of Ahmaud Arbery, a black man in Georgia, who was pursued and murdered by several white men in February while out for a jog because the men claimed to suspect him of committing burglaries in the area. When she says, "I'm going to tell the cops an African-American man is threatening my life," that's a threat, but also a confession, wrote Democratic congressional candidate Qasim Rashid. A confession that she's well aware of America's systemic racial injustices, and she's ready to weaponize them against him. That's potentially lethal. In case you're thinking those sources are all left-leaning, Fox News posted an article on May 27, 2020, with no mention of Christian's possible threat or Jerome Lockett. They did mention the dog treats. The Fox News article was just as damning of Amy Cooper as the left-leaning sources. Fox News included a post and video from the Twitter account Consciously Biased. The video showed Christian Cooper in nature talking about birding with the caption, "This is hashtag Christian Cooper," whom hashtag Amy Cooper called the police on. He's a Harvard graduate, a former Marvel Comics editor, and now the senior biomedical editor at Health Science Communications. This is what he was doing in the park Sunday, watching birds. In 2021, Amy Cooper did an interview with Camille Foster of the Fifth Column. During the podcast, Amy revealed that she'd been sexually assaulted as a 19-year-old, and being alone in the woods with Christian Cooper and having that argument where he said that he was going to do something that she wouldn't like brought back those horrible feelings. Amy also claimed that Christian was dominant in his voice and posture and yelling at Amy at the beginning of their argument, but when he started recording, everything changed. All of a sudden, he was very calm and meek. This change scared Amy. I do question whether or not Amy was scared of Christian, as she is seen on video approaching him, which is more of an indicator of anger than fear. Maybe she was actually afraid of being recorded. Watch how she approaches him.
Would you please stop? Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And
me.
I'm taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
According to Amy, the threat of calling the police was her attempt to get Christian to leave her alone. But when she says, "I'm taking a picture and I'm calling the cops, I'm going to tell them an African-American man is threatening my life," it's often necessary to give the police a description, so that's not an issue. But when she said that, she wasn't talking to the police. This is the part that looks bad for Amy. Camille Foster asked Amy about this on his podcast. Amy basically said she was scared and it was a descriptor, nothing else. But if she was scared, why approach? And why use a descriptor to Christian unless it's a threat? According to Amy's account, at the end of the video, Amy was still on the phone with 911. They got disconnected. Christian left. 911 called back, which is the second 911 call alluded to by the media, but Amy did not say what she said during that call. Another man came down the path and walked Amy out of the park. Shortly after Melody Cooper, Christian's sister, had posted the video on Twitter, Amy was doxxed. Her phone number, home address, and employment info had all been shared on the internet. She started receiving nasty phone calls, texts, and emails immediately. There were threats, death threats, graphic images. She shared an archive of these messages with Camille Foster. One of the messages read, "Amy Cooper from New York, if that is indeed you in the video, slit your wrists. You're a piece of shit. Both the way you treated that man as well as the dog are clear the world would be a better place if you were no longer in it. You're pathetic and vile. Someone should put that leash around your neck and drop you from one of those trees. I hope to God they prosecute you for animal cruelty as well as lying to law enforcement. Maybe in jail, you'll get treated as you deserve. If anyone deserves prison rape, it's you. Every breath you take is a breath better suited for someone else. You bring dishonor on you and the whole humanity. The noble thing to do is to remove yourself from society as a whole. So please kill yourself." Amy said she received around 100 emails like this on May 25th, plus another 100 phone calls where people said the same things verbally. Camille Foster asked Amy who she spoke to that day as far as friends and family. Amy said she sent her family a message that night telling them to deny they knew me, deny they ever had a child. If anyone called them, to just say that I don't exist. On May 25th, 2020, a crowd had formed in front of Amy's apartment building. That night, she had packed a bag and fled to a safe house. Amy has since tried to live her life in anonymity, always afraid of being recognized. She doesn't go outside often without an escort, and she is now afraid to walk Henry in the woods. She has struggled with suicidal ideation. Amy thought about driving her car into a tree or off a bridge so it can just be over. Amy said to Camille Foster, There's days when I'd wake up in the morning and I'd think, why did I have to wake up again? Why couldn't I have just died in my sleep last night? The charges of filing a false police report were dropped in February of 2021 after Amy completed an educational course on racial identity. Interestingly, in Canada, where Amy Cooper grew up, verbal threats are considered assault and do not have to include physical force, just a lack of consent. After Amy Cooper appeared on the Fifth Column podcast with Camille Foster, I don't think it did much to rehabilitate her reputation. KQED, which is the NPR and PBS member station for Northern California, posted an article titled, Central Park Karen Amy Cooper remains unrepentant about Central Park Karening. The opening paragraph read, "In God Just Shut Up Already news, that white lady who made an unhinged call to cops about the man who was birdwatching while black is back. And wouldn't you know it, she's defending all that dog choking and racism she did in Central Park last summer." In November of 2023, Amy Cooper wrote an article for Newsweek. She summed up her current state. Over 3 years later, I am still in hiding. I am scared to be in public. I still can't get a job that meets my qualifications. And there have been long stretches of unemployment, all leading to thoughts of self-harm. Christian Cooper's life, after the argument in the Ramble, has been almost the polar opposite of Amy's. Christian wrote a story inspired by the altercation for DC Comics. He has largely been lauded by the media. Joe Biden said this about Christian: "You made an incredible contribution at a very important moment." Christian published a book with Penguin Random House titled Better Living Through Birding, Notes from a Black Man in the Natural World. His book became a New York Times bestseller, a Washington Post and Chicago Public Library Best Book of the Year, and longlisted for the Andrew Carnegie Medal. Pulitzer Prize-winning author Ed Yong described Christian's book as wondrous and captivating. Christian was given his own National Geographic television show titled Extraordinary Birder. He has recently talked about writing a memoir. I'm sure it will be a New York Times bestseller. Maybe they'll make a movie about his life. I believe people should be treated the same, regardless of their immutable characteristics. In this case, I think group identities were more important to our society than the actual actions of the individuals. What would have happened if Amy had been the birder and Christian had been the dog walker? I think it's likely that Amy still would have been branded a Karen for her actions. The media and the mob would have pointed out her obsession with the rules, her creepy threat, and the possibly poisoned dog treats. They would have wondered why a black man can't walk his dog in Central Park without being harassed by a Karen. They would have wondered why she felt the need to videotape and post a video showing the man getting upset. Why was she so ready for this argument anyway? Phone and dog treats at the ready for any dog walkers who break the leash law, a law that she has no power to enforce. But she's a Karen, so she thinks she has special privileges to tell everyone else what to do. In this alternative reality, maybe Christian would have a dog walking show. This 70-second video created a firestorm of public outrage. Most Americans branded Amy Cooper as a terrible racist and moved on with their lives. Was her punishment justified? What about Christian? Did he deserve his acclaim and good fortune? Who was right? Who was wrong? I don't know for sure. I will say that I think Christian was a bully for the threat he made, the use of dog treats to agitate Amy, not to mention posting a video of someone's meltdown. None of this was graceful, kind, or understanding. He was ready for an argument. He had experience with these confrontations. He was ready with his dog treats. He was ready to video, and he was ready to post to the world. Amy had no idea what she was walking into. Having said that, Amy did not have a good excuse for why she said, "I'm calling the cops."
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
I can understand why she'd offer his description to the 911 operator, but why offer that description to Christian? I'm pretty sure he knows he's African American. If I accept her words at face value, just as I accepted Christian's, then Amy also made a threat. I don't know what was in Christian or Amy's heart that day. Only Christian and Amy know that. This is a dispute that should have been kept private. The world is not a better place because an internet mob played judge, jury, and executioner with a woman's life based on a 70-second video. I don't think this 70-second video is a good representation of either party. Ultimately, I don't think Christian deserved the acclaim he received after the incident, and I don't think Amy deserved the vitriol she received. Neither of them deserved anything because of this disagreement. You might be wondering why I would cover this story in such detail. It's because I think the details matter. The truth matters, especially if our society wants to weaponize these disputes to harm those involved. It's also an excellent case study of propaganda. Many in the media and in the mob acted shamefully, yet they believed they were the virtuous ones, standing up against racism one keystroke at a time. But they didn't improve race relations. They only exaggerated and exacerbated the problems. Who the collective internet mob punishes and who they pardon is arbitrary. It boils down to who is caught on camera, what they were doing in that snippet of their life without context, what they look like, and the cultural mores of the time. This internet mob justice rarely enacts any real justice, as they often miss important details. Internet mob justice is purely punitive, the participants enjoying the feeling of superiority over their intended target. Internet mobs are not kind or understanding. They are not intelligent or reasoned. Internet mobs are bigoted and hateful. They often behave far worse than their intended targets. Amy Cooper received hundreds of messages on May 25th, 2020 from the internet mob. Messages like this one: "You're pathetic and vile. Someone should put that leash around your neck and drop you from one of those trees." The internet is an evil place. I hate that our worst moments can be videoed and posted for the world to see. Imagine your worst moment. Now imagine that someone recorded it and posted it online for the world to ridicule and shame you. I doubt many of us would emerge from that hypothetical situation unscathed.